welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today is entrepreneur and Abraham Hicks fan, Louis de Souza. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. Anne-Marie is feeling a little bit under the weather, so she'll be joining us again next week. And the guests that we had scheduled for today double booked. So instead of having her on today, we're going to have her on December 6th, which means, Louis, we get to do the throwback style. We get to do it the way we used to do it, where it was just, me and the co-host, and let's go for it. So welcome to the throwback.
How do we do that, Walt? I've forgotten.
Yeah, right. Well, the way we usually do it is we just start talking and see what happens. And you actually gave me a cue when we were talking before we got started, because I know soil's a big thing for you. And I won't go into what you were telling me unless you decide you want to. But I'm just curious, what have you been doing with soil lately?
Soil? Not as much as I'd like to be honest.
Oh, okay.
So the summer really dried out the grass. So there was a big dead patch, and it was mostly where the washing line is, which is understandable. So I just went in to buy a whole bunch of compost because we don't quite have enough of our own, even though we bought a heated compost heap, which speeds it up, and we get about a sack a month, which is very good, for the size of compost heap. But that's just not enough. So lots of other options have been opening up. But we went and bought some compost, like 6 bags of it, which is expensive,
Oh, compost.
Organic matter is expensive.
It is. It really is. It's the good stuff anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So I dug up the lawn all where it was dry and all the rest of it. Took a fork in and loosened everything up. Got some grass seeds, threw down a whole lot of compost over all the areas, but made it even thicker over that area. So I'd broken up all the ground. There were actually quite a few worms underneath it, which I was really chuffed about.
Good. I know you've talked about that a lot, so I'm glad to hear that they were actually there.
Because it was so hard there, I was wondering, are they going to be there or not? But put in a little bit of a pathway there, so you've got some stones to walk on, so that it doesn't kind of happen again. Loosened up all the stuff, put a whole lot of compost, put some grass seeds down, and now the lawn is black, perfect. The one thing is it wasn't quite as level as it used to be, so I have to kind of sort that out.
Always a challenge.
But that's just on my front. On the safe soil front, they're doing a bicycle race at the moment, which I think is going to. There's a strong focus at the moment to push the whole event. COP has been pushing soil. Everybody's starting to talk soil now, which is really from nobody talking about soil. Everybody's starting to talk about soil, because Sadhguru's awareness campaign of, going from London all the way back to India on the motorbike, raised awareness to 3.8 billion people. Through social media, etc.
Wow.
Which is probably the biggest social awareness campaign that's ever run on the planet.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. You're talking like what, 40% of the entire population of the planet.
I know. It was massive. So, lots of people are talking about soil now in so many different ways. Just got an email from Rotary. One of the ladies was at the COP27 or something, and Rotary's now got everybody in Rotary starting to talk about soil now, which is really weird, because I couldn't get them to talk about anything like that until I started my talk, where, as I said, one lady said to me, you've taken such a boring subject and made it so interesting. But
that's good, though.
Yeah. So you're getting a lot of awareness going out there at the moment, because all these little countries can have their little wars, but if we don't have food on this planet, it's going to be a biggie. It's really going to affect a lot of people. And also found out that Ukraine has got some of the richest soil on the planet, or the richest soil on the planet. They got 4 meters of organic matter still in some places.
Wow.
4 meters
of
organic matter in their soil.
Pretty deep.
That's gargantuous.
Yeah.
So, there's a reason why people want to fight over that. If
apparently,
people aware of how important the soil is, then there's kind of a reason why people would want to go into
That's one
Ukraine
of the
from that
undocumented
point of view.
ones. Yeah, right.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, because I actually I don't follow news generally, but I've been kind of following that whole situation, and I followed it fairly in depth, and I haven't seen anything like that at all. I mean,
Yeah.
I've
No,
been
there's
looking
nothing
to
like that.
sources that
No.
nobody even looks at, and the sources don't have that. I mean, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I found out about it was because the Save Soil movement, somebody found out.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
right.
only certain areas of Ukraine that have got
Sure,
that much.
but still, that's noteworthy.
But still, that's
Yeah.
really, really noteworthy. It's breadbasket of that area, or even Europe, and nobody really knew about it until somebody started invading Ukraine. So it was really interesting.
I mean, the closest that we've ever seen, or that I've seen anyway, in the news and the available news sources to this is that Ukraine is a significant exporter of grains and so forth to other countries, particularly impoverished countries, and so it was a big deal whether or not they could get their ships out there, out into the Black Sea, and then transporting stuff to where the stuff needed to go. But that's the closest I've seen to it.
It's massively affected the flour bread price in the UK. So it's affecting us directly. Sure. It's not just rumors. I mean, our milk has gone up more than anything in this country. Nothing else. I think milk is
interesting.
Milk and eggs. It's like weird.
Well, actually, our milk and egg prices have gone up. Not so much for the milk, but the eggs have really gone up a lot. Yeah.
They were looking at a huge list of about 100 items of what's gone up, and the last one on the list was wine. Wine hasn't gone up much. It's like the highest one is bread and eggs, and then the bottom one is like wine. It's like, okay, really got their priorities right somewhere.
Nobody's invaded the Napa Valley. I think that's what's going on there. But
yeah, I've been to the Napa Valley. It's so cool. There was a geyser there, and I went to that. I can't even remember where that was.
But you haven't been doing much in the way of more research about the whole soil thing. I mean, mainly.
Yeah, I've done the second part of my study for my certificate for environmental enhancement by the UN. So the UN gave a free course that I did the first part, and I'll be finishing off the second part there.
Okay.
So yeah, that's been done, and that is just so political that I wasn't enjoying it at all. But I mean, I do now understand how a country, from the point of view of the people who look after the agricultural division, will say, this is how we will deal with that situation. This is how we'll deal with that situation. This is how we'll deal with this one. And I've got an idea of the bigger picture of what they would do in a circumstance like that and how they would approach it, which is, for me, beneficial, because I also wanted to understand that as well. So this, I was also thinking of taking a job at the moment in connection with composting or something like that, or a farm or something, preferably organic. But I don't think there's a lot around me, and I've been looking and I can't find any. But
just to learn,
I've been to 2 organic farms in this country already, but that was about 15 years ago. And I found it fascinating. One was owned by diamond guy in South Africa. What's his name? Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer's one of the Oppenheimer wives owns this organic farm.
I see. Okay.
And obviously with the kind of money they've got, they don't care if they make a profit or not.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a trinket for them. So
it's like the old joke about what it takes to make a small fortune in winemaking. You start with a large fortune.
Yeah. So yeah. Also, the White House, as you know what that is. They've also said that I can go there and make compost heaps and do whatever the hell I want, really. So I've got the opportunity of digging in there and spending hours and hours of creating my own. But as I said to you earlier, I don't really want to go out there and do it myself. I'd rather go there and somebody who's really done it all, and then I just learn and pick up the ropes.
Yeah.
So
because you're going to learn a lot if you can find somebody, you're going to learn a lot from
Exactly.
somebody who's actually been there,
Exactly.
done that, got the T-shirt.
You know,
'cause
I want to
they
speak to
can teach all kinds of stuff.
farmers. I want to speak to the guardians of the soil on this planet. I really do. And I want to get their point of view, because I'm sure there's something that the Save Soil guys are looking at it one way, and then the actual guys in the ground are seeing it another way. And I really want to get that point of view so I could deal with those kind of questions from
That's great. I
farmers,
love
from the
that.
guardians themselves.
Yeah, get the perspective from every perspective, not just the one perspective. I think that's fabulous.
Yeah. So that's me. I'm just trying to get all the information from all different sides and angles and put it all together. But again, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't have any clear plan. You know, it's as though I'm just waiting for something to happen, like getting ready to be ready in Abraham Hicks style. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'll get ready to be ready to be ready. And you know,
Well,
I'll talk about it. I'll
you're
talk
kind of
about
like
it
doing
anyway.
investigation. You're in the investigation stage. You're the learning, the evidence gathering stage, so to speak.
Because I've started to join Rotary's international environmental team. So environmental group is the 7th group that they've added on to Rotary's dimension, because it never was. So it was always poverty or war or this or that or something else that they were dealing with. But now they've added the last area into their remit, which is environment, and it's still very new and all the rest of it. But people are running with it in all different ways and shapes and forms at the moment. So I'm trying to catch up to what they're doing and how they're doing it. But most of the time they're doing civic things again instead of environmental things, what I would call the difference between civic and environmental, like recycling, reusing. To me, that's more civic.
Gotcha.
Environmental is more like saving the soil and the oceans and, you know, the bigger pictures. But so I'm also wanting to get their focus away from more the civic and put that more in the civic groups, and get them to see and to look more at the bigger picture, the environmental. And joining Sadhguru's Save Soil group, the Isha Foundation group, would be, to me, very, very beautiful ally between Rotary and the Save Soil group. So that's another thing that I'm looking at. I mean, even Sadhguru has spoken in India to the Rotarians. So you can go on YouTube and you can type Sadhguru Rotary, and he's just talked to them directly. So, you know, it's
that would be a pretty significant get for you, actually, if you could pull that off, especially since you were talking a moment ago about how, you know, a little while back, Rotary didn't even know what soil was all about. They had no knowledge of it. Now all of a sudden you're talking
at least
about
in our area, yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, whoa,
well, no, actually, from the whole environmental area, yeah.
I mean, that's a shift right there.
Yeah, it's definitely a shift, and I'm seeing a lot of people are now starting to see what I'm seeing. In the saunas and all over the place. And whenever I'm telling somebody, often the response I'm getting is, "Oh, I'd never thought of that before."
Yeah.
You know,
one of the many things we take for granted, right?
Yeah, exactly. That we are the custodians of our soil, and we need to leave it in a better position than it was when, you know, our forefathers left it to us. So
it's funny you
because
say
it is the legacy. It's in the legacy for our children. You know, the soil is the legacy because we're made out of soil. Our body's made out of soil. So it is our legacy to our children.
The reason I say it's funny that you say that is because I was doing some meditating recently, and in the meditation, I was remembering and reminding myself of what my father used to teach me. And my father was a Boy Scout, so he taught things from the Boy Scout perspective. And one of the things he would tell me routinely was, when you go camping, you want to leave the campsite better than when you found it. It was his way, and it was a message for a lot of things in life, but he would use that as the metaphor each time. And I'm thinking, how cool! There's a law of attraction thing, right? I'm focusing on that, and all of a sudden, here you are, basically saying the same thing to me in a slightly different context. I'm thinking, yeah, but that to me is big. Not just with soil, but with anything, leaving whatever you've got, whatever you found, leaving it in a better place after you leave.
Yeah.
That to me is huge.
No, I mean, you can boil that down to energetic as well. You know, all the people who are listening to LOA today left with feeling happier and clearer,
sure.
and you know, so even from an energetic and point of view and a vibrational point of view. That's also what I'm looking at. Whenever I'm speaking to somebody, I want to leave the space that I'm talking with to or around in a higher vibration. But yeah, so there's a lot of things about all that. But my grandfather also used to say, when you went hiking or walking, always pick up litter, leave a place better than when you arrive.
Same message, yeah.
Exactly the same message. But he also used to say, every time I get the urge to walk, I sit down and wait for the urge to pass. Those are the two sayings I remember my dad telling me. His dad told him.
Okay. Oh, that's funny.
No, every time I get the urge to work, I sit down and wait for the urge to pass. Yeah.
But no, but the first part is the really cool one, and I'll tell you why I think it's cool. I mean, first of all, it's just great. I think anytime that you can leave something better than when you found it. But to me, that's also how improvement happens. I mean, yes, we all know here, on LOA today, and those of us who are engaged in these kinds of conversations, these kinds of thought processes, we understand the importance of getting our mindsets set first, getting our thoughts in alignment first, and so forth. But there's also the question of, well, why? What do you want to do with that? And when I look at it from that perspective, I say to myself, well, I want to leave things better, because if I leave things better, then not only is my life getting better, but everyone else's is at the same time. And so it becomes, to use your term, it becomes energetic. Literally, the energy of all that is improves and increases dramatically, just because I left a patch of grass better than when I found it, or a patch of anything. It doesn't matter what the patch is. Yeah.
But just imagine everybody in the world did that. It would,
right.
The place would improve massively, very quickly. I'm just thinking of the level of quality of air that we could be having. It's just so low at the moment. I can, even driving from my house further and closer to London, you just feel it gets thicker and worse all the way. But as you go out, when we're in Austria and the Austrian Alps, it's just so crisp out there. It's just completely different. And, just imagine if the whole planet was just full of way more oxygen and all the rest of it.
Well, we actually got a taste of that during the pandemic, because during in the early part of the lockdown, nobody was driving anywhere. No planes, none of that. And the air was pristine. I remember getting out, because that was the place to go. Just going out to take a walk somewhere, like, whoa, this is great.
And how many birds they were chirping, like,
yeah.
As they were like so happy, like they're on a holiday.
Right. Well, it kind of was, in a sense. I mean, it was a very challenging time. It was a very stressful time. I remember the shows that we were doing during that time. We were consciously trying to help people to raise their vibration at a time when their vibration was very low, understandably so. And my own vibration, I can't say was wonderful. It was pretty good during that time, as a general rule. But I wanted to help spread that, and it was so easy to just go out and take that walk and just breathe in that air. It gave me an instant topic every single time I started a new podcast episode. Oh, I took a walk today. I mean, yeah, the pandemic is terrible and so forth, but oh my God, the air is so clear, so easy to breathe. I mean, there was no pollution. It was just wonderful, and it really was. It was literally something that I would look forward to every single day in the midst of all that stress and craziness that was going on. It was one of the lifelines, actually, that I had to just get myself into a better feeling place. Literally a better feeling place, not just the feeling part, but like everything felt good, which was nice. Really powerful. Yeah. So I value that a lot. That's one of the things I appreciated that time.
What it brought the awareness to me was how quickly we can heal the planet if we work together. That's what really struck me. It wouldn't take a lot if we were all focused on it.
Actually, it doesn't have to be all, just a significant proportion. I mean,
yeah. No, absolutely.
It's like the old adage: it takes two people to make a massive change. Just to talk about it and start making the change. That's pretty much what it is. You start getting thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions or tens of millions.
Just thinking of what Sadhguru did, billions.
Yeah, sure.
And that's one individual.
Yeah, he's mobilized 3/8 of the planet or something like that, and that's just yeah. And
Yeah, I mean, he had when I first started talking to you about him, he had about 10 million volunteers, and I think it's now 15 or closer to 20 volunteers now. So. And you know, he gives trainings to big corporates and all the rest of it. Or he used to. I don't think he's got any time for that anymore. And they used to say to him, "So how do you do it in your business?" He says, "Well, I just have volunteers. I can't hire them. I can't fire them, but I've got 10 million of them. I don't pay them." And he says you've got to find a common goal, something people want to get behind, and then you're set.
It's true. It's true. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, you also need to make sure that you're focused on what you want, which is what I love about what you're doing. You're really focusing on the part of what you want, because you can get hung up on, oh God, I don't want all that pollution. I don't want this dead soil. I don't want. You can get just crazy about that kind of thing.
We've seen what some of these guys can do at the
moment.
Oh
yeah.
It's like stopping the M25, which is a big circular road around London. You're just making people angrier.
Yeah.
And it's really not helping anybody.
It doesn't, no. But the few voices that actually speak in favor of what they want, like you're doing, like others in your circle are doing, that's what makes change happen. I mean, people want to know what it takes to make large change. That's what it takes.
Yeah. Somebody was saying to me, "Oh, but I'm not against anything." I said, "Nor we, nor as a group." "Oh, then I can get behind you," they said.
Right.
Instant turnaround with a reaction or what.
Yeah,
what somebody would say.
That's actually well phrased. I mean, that really condenses it down to like a couple of sentences. I'm not against anything. Good. Yeah, like that.
Yeah, I mean, Sadhguru points it out quite clearly. He says, if you're against, GM, you better stop eating.
Yeah.
If you're against, all the type of farming practices that are currently out there, stop eating. We're not only talking about animals, we're talking about vegetables, everything, So
the funny thing is that we do have people like us who have learned and come to understand through the teachings of teachers like Abraham Hicks that you can't change what you don't want by focusing on what you don't want. You can only change it by focusing on what you do want. The interesting thing now, of course, I'm talking from the perspective of one who has come to understand that. The interesting thing is looking out at the world and seeing other people who haven't experienced that same teaching come to that realization in their own ways. And it's not happening like across the board. It's not like everybody is all of a sudden waking up. It's seeing this person wake up and that person's coming up with an interesting twist on it. So lots of different kinds of conversations showing that people are picking this stuff up almost through their skin, so to speak.
And that is what is happening on the planet, at least in my aura or my field. I'm just seeing so many different people doing new and different ways of improving the planet. Billions and zillions of little different ways. And as I mentioned before in another program, I said, somebody says to me, who's the leader of this group or whatever? And I said, well, there isn't one. Go to any community, any group, any area, and you'll find loads of different people doing different things to improve the quality of their environment. And these groups are starting to bond together now and starting to lean on each other and work together and focus together. So I'm very keen to harmonize or to get these guys all talking to each other more and more and more. That is one thing that I like, because then you've kind of got a group that's really moving forward. And Sadhguru said he used to go to all these peace conferences, and he went to one and he sat there, and this guy was going through 42 pages and he was reading it very professional.
42 pages
42 pages, and he never looked up once. He read this whole thing.
Oh geez.
And Sadhguru was awake, and the guy that was reading it was awake, and a couple of the guards were awake, but it looked like
that was about it.
The entire hall was fast asleep.
Right.
So he tried to understand what the guy was doing and all the rest of it, and he just said, I don't want to be part of this anymore. And he never went to another peace conference. He says, guys are making a business out of it.
Is that what that
And
is?
they're jumping from conference to conference to conference. They're getting paid to go to all these conferences, and they don't really care about the environment. There's just a paycheck in the end of the day. And he says, I don't want to be around those
I
kind
didn't
of
know.
groups.
I didn't know you could
So
actually get paid to be a boring person reading 42 pages at an event. I'm like, holy cow! You think they'd actually be willing to pay also for somebody who can be interesting? I mean,
but you know what this world is like, Walt. If it's not scientific, it hasn't been proved, and you haven't had all these
oh
studies
yeah.
and all the rest of it, it's not valuable information. So,
Well, that's
you
actually
really
one of my things. I mean, your thing is soil. My thing is double-blind studies, or more precisely, placebo, because the whole concept behind a double-blind placebo-controlled study just baffles me. I mean, I understand it. Don't get me wrong. I totally grasp what they're doing. I even know what the history was and how it all came about. But the idea that you need to remove placebo from the equation in order to get an accurate reading blows my mind, because they find over and over again placebo actually outperforms whatever the drug is. Why would you want to remove that? I don't get that. I mean, I understand why they're trying to do it, but from a larger perspective, I say that's insane. We have something that actually works, and you're going to turn it down? Really? So yeah,
yeah.
that's one of my things. I really want to see that shift, and I'm doing my best to help shift it.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to look for a few more courses that are a little more practical and down to earth, or even if they actually, in London doing hands-on type courses, I'll go to those. So I just want to be involved with more and more people in that arena, in that area, specifically locally. I mean, traveling miles and miles and miles to go chat to these people is not my idea of fun, and is not very carbon footprint friendly. So, you really want to try and get hold of all these people in a way that's, Zoom and other things like that, whatever you can do to get hold of them. But it's a journey. As somebody once said to me, they said their mentor in the Go Green arena said to them, it's just a journey, and it takes a lot of time for all the bits and pieces of the puzzle to fit into your head.
It does. Yeah.
In the end of the day, this is our planet, and I really want to leave it in a slightly better place than I found it, if I can, to the best of my ability. And I want to be, proactive with all that.
The beauty of a journey is that it's a journey. So the real trick, if you will, with the journey is to enjoy the journey. And I'm just as guilty of this as anybody else is, but we have this tendency to just, okay, I'm on a journey. I got to get to the next step. Where's the next step? Which isn't enjoying the journey at all. Right?
Absolutely. But you kind of get there when you've done LOA for a while, that the journey is the most important thing. And even when you die, the journey is going to be picked up and moved along with other people in other ways. And it's just an endless cycle. And, thinking of it in terms of my life alone, a lot of people say the only thing that's of any value is to leave your legacy. There's a whole book, there's books and books out there on your legacy. That's the important thing. And, they're thinking of creating, a house or money or this or that, or some foundation or something that you've left behind. When, the person who's not thinking about legacy, who's just leaving an energetic footprint of greater than it was when they walked into the room, is leaving a legacy. You don't have to have a label stamped on it with your name or whatever.
Well, that's just it. It's the difference between leaving a legacy and leaving a branded legacy. Like the branded. Oh, excuse me. Somehow I got somebody dialing through. I'm not sure how that's happening, because I have most of those calls blocked. But whatever that is. But the whole idea of leaving a legacy as a branded legacy, I mean, it's fine if you really want to do that, but what's the point there? It's because it sounds to me like the point is, well, I have to show with what I did. It has to be about, this.
Like
it isn't
about
my
moi.
it's about me. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with it being about you. But is that really what a legacy is? Is it not a legacy if you don't have your brand attached to it? I mean, of course it is. A legacy is just something you left behind. And whether or not somebody else can see that your name was on it, you still left it there. So why is it so important to have the brand? That's the part that I don't quite get. Why is that such a big deal? It is for some people, and I'm certainly willing to
I
hear their
mean,
viewpoint.
in the old days, it was king and blood and all the rest of it. You can only become king if you're part of this blood and that blood, and you got to blood suck all the women to try to get sons out of them, and or cut off their heads or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's this huge fight about blood and legacy in name and all the rest of it. And I think the world is getting to that place where they're starting to see that that's not as important as vibration. There's a level of, if all of us just do our little bit, we can change massively what's going on. I mean, what they did was, this Moto study about water and putting love and appreciation on water and all the rest of it, and how they changed it.
Yeah.
So they went to a lake that was completely infested with all bits and pieces and covered and slimy and all the rest of it, and they just chanted around it for an hour, like thousands of people, and it started completely clearing up. Completely. And everybody was absolutely gobsmacked.
Yeah,
that's the word they use over here. Surprised. And there's a lot of groups out there at the moment who are focused on peace. So when there's war in Ukraine and all the rest of it, they do these millions of people get online and focus on it for an hour or so. And then that area changes, and they've just proving this again and again. It's so successful that I think it's bothering a few of those scientists. But
well, I think they're finding that it's harder and harder to avoid the evidence, and that's what's really bothering them. Yeah, but we actually had one of those. We were tied in with one of those here because Debbie G, who does the Friday show with me, is now the head of Unify, which is an organization that does these kinds of peace events, among other things. They have a variety of things that they do. And they had a peace event in October, I think it was. And Debbie asked me to contribute to it, so I created a video that contributed to it. And I don't know what the final numbers were in terms of the number of people who participated. It was fairly good sized participation. And it was at that point in time, like within a day of that, 2 days of that there was a lull in the fighting in Ukraine. I mean, it was just like one led to the other. Now, the newsies didn't notice. They had no idea that was going on. But it happened. It was pretty cool, So it shows it really can have an impact, even on something as dynamically hot as a war, a fairly significant war going on over in Eastern Europe. Yeah. Pretty important.
Yeah, just imagine if the whole world was focusing on improving our soil mentally.
Well, apparently they're on the verge of doing that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a larger portion of being aware. There's still only like 10, 15 million volunteers who are the more focused individuals, and then out of that,
I have to just throw in there. I can't remember the last time I heard the words "only" and 10 to 15 million in the same sentence.
And volunteers.
And volunteers, right?
Yeah, no. I perceive Sadhguru as going to be somebody who's going to be recognized for his incredible. I mean, he really is, but I mean, he's going to be one of those people like Mother Teresa we're going to talk about in over time. That kind of level of. Somebody was saying in one of his live videos on Facebook, he just wants to get the Nobel Award. He just wants to get the Nobel Award. He just wants to.
That's it.
And I felt like typing in there. I never did, but I was going to type in, wow, I wish more people would want to get that award.
Oh, that's great. You should have typed that. That would have been fun.
Yeah, I know.
If nothing else, it probably would have short-circuited some brains, so that would have been
and I can't see Sadhguru being vaguely interested in getting that. If he does, he'd probably shrug it off as like, okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's just a fun journey, man. And I just want everybody to jump on and have the fun in it, because a lot of people are serious at the moment. A lot of
Well,
people are
that is the
struggling.
trick. I mean, because we do deal with stuff. Stuff happens every single day. I've experienced a lot of stuff lately. And in the midst of dealing with the stuff, especially when you've been kind of acclimatized to the kinds of teachings that we talk about here, you begin to realize, okay, I know I'm dealing with stuff right now, but I also know where I need to get to. How do I get there? I need to shift my thought process. I need to shift where I'm giving my attention. I need to shift my values. I need to shift what I'm appreciating and what I'm not appreciating. I need to shift all of that. And that's the challenge right there. The degree to which we're able to make that shift, that's the degree to which our lives keep improving and everything else around us keep improving. But there's also that strong, what's the word I want to use? Inertia, maybe. There's that strong inertia that kind of keeps us in one place, focusing on the old stuff, focusing on the old patterns. Okay, I know I really should be focusing over here, but I'm dealing with all this crap, so I'm just going to focus on the crap because the crap is really crappy. And let me tell you, I know it because I've been dealing with it and I've been swimming in it, so it is crappy. And yet, we know what happens when you do that. We know what happens when you stay in that place. So that's what so many of us are facing these days. How do we come to a new decision? A new decision to shift in the midst of dealing with the crap. That's the challenge, and it's daily.
Pivot pals.
Pivot pals, yeah, right.
Yeah. And we often can help each other. We often can. And it's something I'm doing more and more at the moment. I'm asking people to help me. I don't know everything. I only know this much.
Yeah, right.
But how much I don't know is infinite. So, help me. Help me, teach me, show me.
That's an important principle. Yeah. Very often we can get into a space that we start to feel proud or introverted or whatever, and we don't want to ask for help. And that's probably the greatest way to strangle ourselves. We really do need to ask for help, especially when
people love helping, don't they?
They do. They really do.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
if
there may be limits.
Feel the difference they're making,
Yep.
Then they're with you all the way. But
there may be limits to how much they
can
help.
It.
They may feel like they can only help to a certain degree. But even if they only help to a certain degree, that helps. That helps. I mean, we have a tendency again to dismiss that. No, don't dismiss that. That's a big deal. Even if you're helping just a little bit is a little bit. You get a whole bunch of little bits, you got a big bit.
Yeah, I'll never forget. I asked a friend of mine, because she was in the Greenpeace in the local area, and said to her, do you know somebody else who's in the area who's into all this, soil and all the rest of it? She says, one of my friends has got one of these plots of land where you grow things.
Nice.
And all the rest of it. So I rocked up there to go visit her with the whole family in my Jaguar. And she couldn't speak fast enough or try to get rid of me fast enough.
Oh, really?
I was killing the environment. But after the time, I started talking to her and said I had a scooter. And, I would have
should have ridden the scooter up there. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
And, by the time it was finished, she had slowed down and she was happy to have chat about everything and anything. But,
there's actually there's a useful lesson built in there.
She
made an assumption about you that wasn't a valid assumption. We can make these assumptions based on what we see as an initial perception and really lead ourselves astray by doing that.
But a powerful, wealthy person has more ability to change things. Doesn't necessarily mean they use it for the good, but they have that ability. Somebody who's got no contacts and no nobody trusts them, nobody really likes them very much, they're not going to have as much influence as somebody who's got thousands of people who love and trust them, like in the Herbalife for network marketing kind of environment, and you spread the word or whatever you're on to at that moment in time, and the guys will listen.
Yeah, I agree with that. Our connectedness really is our superpower.
But often we see the rich as, you know, bad or this or that and the other. When you could look at them from another point of view, every subject's two subject, you could look at them as being helpful and influential. You know,
It reminds me of a conversation Cindy Chavez and I had about a year ago on exactly this subject, the subject of perception, public perception of wealthy people. And it turns out that there is a small subset of wealthy people who are just, you know, nasty, mean,
yeah, assholes,
scroogey,
yeah.
yeah. But the vast majority are quiet. They live their lives quietly. They don't brand themselves. They don't brand their work. They don't brag. You know, so you don't hear about them. They're not in the news, but they're in the majority. There are a lot more of them than there are, you know, the really awful scumbags of the world who are wealthy.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the whole newspaper thing. What's that? Journalist concept is that, you know, they take the news on the paper and TV and radio and they pump you with searching all around the world for these negative stories.
Oh,
and then you start to believe that everybody's life is falling to shit. When if you looked at your own life and, you know, everything around you, you'd say like, oh, 99% of the time it's actually fine. You know, it's that 1% that's crappy. And then, but because of all these news articles focusing so much on what we don't want, which is the reason they're doing that is because we're buying it. We wouldn't buy it if everything was glorious and
absolutely
and happy.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're as guilty as the rest, and they're just a representation of what the masses want. But it's really an important thing to understand that most things are going right most of the time.
That's right. It's exactly right. Yeah. And when you're looking at the wealthy, you know, well, I'll name one or two just to give us that side of the thing. I'll name people like, say, Donald Trump, who is loved by some and reviled by many. And he would be one of the people who, the wealthy people. Oh, there's another example of those terrible wealthy people. But how many of those people who point the finger would think about J.K. Rowling? She's actually a lot more wealthy than Trump is. But she's not. They don't. Nobody points to J.K. Rowling and says, "Oh, she's one of those terrible wealthy people," because she's not.
Well, the woke community went out and cancelled her. You know that.
That's true. That's true.
So, you know, there are some pointing at her.
I guess there are a few, but there are.
But I'm sure she can weather that storm easily enough.
Yeah, there are a whole bunch of Harry Potter fans who are not going to agree with them on that. They're just like, you know, hey, you know, you can have your opinion if you want to. That's fine, but we still love J.K. You know, and you know, yeah. Well, if you get into the public eye, anybody can find something to get upset about. Yeah, you know, that's just going to be the nature of it. Because of what you said, the fact is, you know, the media are always looking for the dark side. They're looking for the Voldemorts of the world, and they usually find the Voldemorts of the world. But the world isn't made up of Voldemorts. That's one of the messages that comes out of the Harry Potter stories. The world isn't made up of Voldemorts. What ultimately wins the day at the end, when everybody who is not a Voldemort comes together and says we're done with Voldemort, and basically they eliminate Voldemort. I mean, that's really what the story's about.
It reminds me of something my dad often said. He said, "The Third World War will be started by the journalists."
That reminds me of the solution that has often been proposed for what do you do with the people who start wars. So why don't we just take all the journalists, put them on an island, and let them fight it out?
That's a good one.
Whoever wins, that's the side that wins. You know, okay, we'll give you credit for the win.
Yeah,
you have a lot fewer journalists when you're done.
It's quite interesting that I've started to get known in Rotary for my IT skills now. I'm getting pulled
really?
To go fix all these old guys.
Oh dear,
problems. But you know,
I've been in that space. I know what that one's like. Yeah.
You know, I thought I left that behind because I haven't been asked by my family for many years because I've changed profession and the focus isn't on it. But they now know that I'm quite tech savvy, so now I'm getting asked about other things. I'm I've got to go sort out somebody's sat nav in their Kia
Oh, okay.
next Thursday, and tomorrow morning I'm going out to somebody's house to sort out OneDrive for them and synchronizing with that. But I love the idea that I can help.
Oh, that's cool.
It used to be a burden to me. Now I'm at the age where I really want to give back a lot more than I took when I was younger, and it's a natural progression.
Sure.
When you're young, you're completely reliant on your parents and the food and the house and all the rest of it. And then as you get older, you just want to get some money and have your own house and all the rest of it. And then as you get to my age, you just want to give back because other people also want to get where they're going, and you can help. So why not?
Yeah. Well,
I often said to my dad, "Why is Rotary full of old people?"
That's the energetic journey right there, by the way, what you just described.
Break that down for me as you see it. I'm curious.
Well, the way I see it is we come into a world where we believe that energy is scarce. And so we're fighting over it, and we're desperate for it, and so forth. And then over time, through our life experiences, we, like you said, we get to the point where we feel like we want to give back. Well, that's where we have come to the conclusion that energy isn't scarce anymore. There's actually plenty of it. So we feel free. Of course I can give it back. I've got energy to burn, no problem. It's not a big deal. So the energetic journey is going from a space of scarcity and lack into a space of energy abundance.
You see, that's curious because when you come into this world, you're full of abundant energy.
Yeah, that's true.
You have no negative restraints to this bundle of joy that's just arrived. You're just pure positive energy, really.
Right.
And then all your parents' negativity and what they believe is wrong and difficult and all the rest of it starts getting piled on you, and takes that energy and starts squashing it all to what you're talking about. So that actually there's a whole lot of processes that go on where it's up, down, up, down, up, down.
It's a fair point. Yeah. Yeah. I think I kind of cut the corner a little bit by saying that we had adopted the scarcity viewpoint, because you're right, there's a whole progression that leads up to that. It doesn't happen instantly out of the womb.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Yeah.
This is also true. Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, it isn't just parents. I mean, because any human that the infant interacts with is having an influence on the infant. Now, sure, the parents have more interaction than anybody else, so that's why the parents always get the finger pointed at them. But it's not just the parents. There's an entire society contributing to that feeling of scarcity, contributing to that belief that there's not enough. You're going to have to struggle. You're going to have to blah 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 blah. The whole society,
the whole study hard, work hard crap,
lie,
as I like putting it.
Yeah.
But it's not a lie to the point of view that you need to go out and do action. Okay. But as long as it's aligned action,
yes,
that's the important
it's vital
thing about it all.
I wish I had known that. Honestly, I wish that was the part, that was the missing piece.
Yeah, exactly. And I think more and more people are starting to understand that again in my world, but again, my world's small. But the more and more conversations you have with people, the more they can start seeing the different parts of the puzzle. But again, I don't like teaching anybody anything, so I just share what's my passion, and can go where it wants to. But it's just a journey, and I'm not here to save anybody, because I don't believe anybody's broken or needs saving.
Totally agree.
And I really do look at people who most other people might look at as broken, and I just see, wow, look what they've got and done. They're a beggar on the street, and they've got the freedom. They don't have a house and a mortgage and a car and a petrol and all these kind of things to worry about.
Well, there are a lot of people who do have all those things, and they're still, quote, broken, unquote, and they're not really broken.
Oh, absolutely.
They see themselves as broken, or they've been told that they're broken.
Well, sometimes I feel I'm broken because I've got so many things. I look around the house and I was like, oh my God. I look at how much we bought in Amazon in the last year, and I go, oh my God, something's wrong.
Actually, I had a big clear out lately, and the house is a lot emptier, and I feel lighter for it. It's like, whoa, there are spaces I didn't know existed.
Yeah, doing house energy clearing can be hugely beneficial. Getting some of those bells, those Tibetan Buddhist meditation bowls as well. You get glass ones, you get a couple, the 7 mineral ones like I've got. Literally taking sage and burning it in the house, all of that starts to clear the energy. And yes, a lot of it is psychological, a lot of it is just thought, but it can really be beneficial. I've seen somebody feng shuied a house, my mentor in South Africa, and I've been to a house many, many times. And she feng shuied it over a couple of weeks, and I hadn't seen her for that couple of weeks, and I went back. I couldn't even find the door to her house anymore. When I went in, I was like, oh my God, where am I? Is this the right house? This is just, when somebody feng shuis it and changes the energy in a house, it can completely change the place to a degree I'd never dreamt until I saw it firsthand.
I hadn't thought about the feng shui aspect, and now you're making me refocus on that, because, like I said, it's been a big clear out that's gone on here. I'm thinking, well, okay, maybe take advantage of that. Take advantage of the fact that there's been a physical shift and also add in an energy shift, maybe both at the same time.
Absolutely.
That's worth considering. Yeah. I hadn't looked into feng shui at all in the past, other than to have people on the show talking about it. But now I'm thinking, well, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time.
The old people used to have a lot of rituals and traditions and things like that. And, a lot of the festivals that everybody's got around the world in the different shapes and forms are related around traditional, kind of ceremonies, etc. And, I really think they had it. What they're doing is they're focusing the energy. Something Sadhguru once said, somebody said to him, why do all masters say that they're the only way? He says, well, if they didn't do it, people would be so scattered they wouldn't be able to focus. So all masters have to say they're the only way, otherwise the students aren't going to focus.
It's an interesting viewpoint, actually.
It is a very interesting viewpoint, and I think it's completely accurate from many perspectives.
Well, I was thinking about something that you've mentioned a few times in passing here on the show, and it kind of ties into this. The idea that people have trouble focusing on something for any significant length of time. And that's kind of what you're referring to, the idea that people are so easily distracted. I've actually been paying attention to that within myself lately. I determined, for instance, this morning as I was waking up, I was going to focus on a particular thing I think it was for 4 minutes. It was the longest 4 minutes of my life. And I didn't completely succeed, because I would draw my attention over here, and I'll pull it back, and draw my attention over here, oh no, pull it back. I had to do that 3 or 4 times because it was so easy for the mind to wander.
What I loved is understanding the mechanism of Abraham Hicks's rampage of appreciation.
Yeah, that's
so what they're doing is they're talking all around the subject,
right,
in all different ways. So it's not like only thinking of one subject and one precise thing, but they're massaging all different aspects of it. And if you get that, you can get how you can focus on one thing, or one direction you want to pull yourself into quite clearly. But not, you're not only thinking just love, 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 love. You're thinking, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I had more love in my life? And, if I do this and I get that and I go here and I go there, and you bring the excitement in.
See, now there, right there, you just touched on it. That's where I find that I end up getting myself distracted, because I start doing what you just described and all of a sudden I'm off on the tangent of what that thing that would be so great about, and I forgot what it was that I was focusing on.
But if you're raising your vibration, it doesn't really matter that much, does it?
That's what I keep telling myself.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I keep telling myself. Like, okay, so I didn't really stay on the subject, but the vibration was good. So, okay, I'll give myself credit for that.
Because as you raise your vibration, when you're thinking about what you want to do after that, from a high vibration point, you're going to make a far better decision than when you were in that lower vibrational point.
Yeah, that's a big deal right there too, because we make lousy decisions when we're in low vibration. I mean, really lousy.
Really lousy.
really, really bad. Really, really, really bad decisions. Oh.
And I think we've all seen that, haven't we?
We've experienced it. We've done it to ourselves. What are you talking about? Not seen it? You just live it in your life. How many times have we made decisions that later on we say, oh, why did I do that? Oh, man, that was so stupid.
But, I've already become aware of it now, when I get a little bit angry, I got really frustrated because the water jug often overflows because I make the mistake of filling it up when it's already at a certain level, which it'll go over.
Mm-hmm.
And, I always think I'm going to be, get distracted and I do other things and it fell over. And I got really angry with this. I took the water and I just threw it into the sink and then I smashed the jug down on the table and it was into thousands of pieces.
Oh, my goodness.
And I can be very, there's a lot of force and power inside me. So I can be really,
Well, I was thinking about that because you have the martial arts skills. You've got the black belt. I mean, when you apply your ki or your chi to that, my goodness, that's dangerous.
And this is one of the jugs which I've thrown and dropped on the floor many a time and it bounces back. It's a really, really interesting material it's made out of. It's not glass per se, it's something else, but it's very similar to glass. But I'm just this little bit of
step up for a second. I have a cat that needs to come in, but tell your story and I'll be back in a minute.
Sure. Yeah. The thing about me is Walt, what I was saying is the thing about me is I wouldn't want to get on my own bad side. You know what I
mean? Yeah, I thought the same thing about myself. Yeah.
But there's a level of power in me that if I bring it to the fore is quite ferociously powerful. There's an animalistic power inside which I can draw on if I need to. And
what I've realized about that though is that with that same power within myself, it has taught me that I do actually have the ability to focus, because when I get into that really angry or frustrated state like that, boy, I can stay there for quite some time. It's really amazing how long I can stay there. So it kind of reinforces, okay, this is a skill I've already got. I just need to transfer it over to the other is all. But I already know how to do it, So, yeah. Well, this has been a nice throwback. This is the way we used to do it, right? Before we did the guests. And I've been enjoying it. It's been really, really good. We had another one on Friday, too. Neo and I did one. Because Neo actually reserved the show.
I heard that. I saw that from the...
Yeah, you saw that? Yeah.
Write-up, yeah.
Yeah. Because Neo said, well, how do we do one where we're just talking? I said, well, just reserve the show. Oh, okay. So he reserved the show, which was fun. So, we'll probably do some more of those in the days and weeks to come. I mean, there's still plenty of guests coming on too, but it's good to mix it up a little bit. I like that. So hopefully we'll have Anne-Marie back next week, and we'll be able to bring her perspective in. There's something I've mentioned this before. I love when we have three on the show. There's something about the energy that comes from three. I agree. The conversation flows better.
Yeah.
With better than two, better than four, better than five. There's something about three that's really, really powerful.
That's what Jesus said, didn't he? He said, when you meet in my name with more than three. I don't know, something like that.
Something along that line, yeah.
Must have been a priest who said it like that I've done it like that.
I wasn't paying attention that Sunday. I mean,
when three or more appear in my name, I think of the words.
Something along that line, yeah. But well, this has been very enjoyable. Thank you very much, and looking forward to carrying on the conversation next week. And thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Take care, everybody.